Warmly welcome all delegates and distinguished guests to the event launching workshop ePing Global Trade Notification System Vietnamese version today. On behalf of the organization team, we would like to wish you health, success, and happiness. Ladies and gentlemen, in the framework of cooperation between Viettrade, MOITs, and ITC, and agencies of United Nations and World Trade Organization aim to strengthen transparencies and promote the global trade. We had jointly launched the workshop on the ePing Global Trade Notification System Vietnamese version to support government agencies, small and medium enterprise to keep track of the latest information on the legal requirement for international trade. And this new system allows users to access and receive notice on technical barriers and the TBTs and SPS of the WTO member state. The system also has a mechanism for state agency and the enterprise to have a forum and dialogue to solve the potential commercial problem in the early stage, to update the market-related information, have effective support to the production and business and import and export activity. This is also the reason why the Viettrade and ITC organize a seminar to officially launching the ePing Global Trade Notification System Vietnamese version to all the agencies, Vietnamese business community organization to access to the information and searching for information. And today, I would like to introduce the participants of the distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. On the side of the Ministries of Industries and Trade, I would like to introduce Mr. Đỗ Thắng Hải, Deputy Minister of Industries and Trade. Mr. Vũ Bảo Phú, General Director of Viettrade. And for ITC, I would like to introduce Mr. Pamela Cook Hamilton, Executive Director of ITC. On the side of the World Trade Organization, we would like to introduce Mr. I Ho Lim, Director of the Trade and Environment Divisions of the World Trade Organization. I would like to introduce Mr. Nguyễn Hoàng Linh, Deputy General Director, General Department of Standards and Metrology Quality. On the side of the Ministries of Agriculture and Rural Development, I would like to introduce Mr. Lê Thanh Hòa, Deputy Director of the Department of Processing and Marketing Development, Director of the SPS Viet Nam office. I would like to introduce Mr. Tôn Thục Uyên, Deputy Director of Vietnam TBT's office. And I would like to introduce Associate Professor Dr. Lê Thị Thu Thủy, Chairman of Foreign Trade University Council. I would like to introduce Associate Professor Dr. Đào Ngọc Tiến, Vice President of Foreign Trade University. I would like to introduce Mr. Vianney Lesofo, Marketing Analysis, ITC. And you know that attending the workshop today, there will have a representative from different ministries, departments, associations, and the different province in Bai, Phú Thọ, Thái Bình, Hải Dương, and Nam Định province. Ladies and gentlemen, to open their workshop today, I would like to introduce Mr. Đỗ Thắng Hải, Deputy Minister of the MOIT, to have an opening remark. Dear Ms. Pamela Cook Hamilton, Executive Directors of the ITC, ladies and gentlemen, distinguished guests, internationals and domestic representatives from different organizations. On behalf of the MOIT, I would like to welcome all of you, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, representatives from different ministries, central agencies, different sectors and representative from organization and media and representative from WTOs and ambassador from different embassies to attend to launching workshop ePing Global Trade Notification System that's organized by the Vietnamese and ITC to organize today. Ladies and gentlemen, with the aims of increasing the transparencies and promoting global trade, the Ministries of Industries and Trade assigned the Viettrade to coordinate with the International Trade Center and agencies of the United Nations and the WTO to organize the events on launching ePing and the Global Trade Alert System Vietnamese version to support the government agency, organization, the sector associations and the business to track the latest information on the legal requirement for the international trade. ePing is the result of the three international organization cooperation, and it also support to comply with the safety and that testings and also the certifications and other necessary measure to adjust to international markets. You know that for the internet for the many business, so it's very important to keep tracks the informations, and it directly impact to the success or the failures of the business and import and export activity of the enterprise. Ladies and gentlemen, in Vietnam, the ePing has been translated in the Vietnamese versions, and it also under the cooperation between the Vietnamese and ITC to put under the NTM program and project since 2018. Beside the capability building for training the trainers and trainers, the project also especially focusing on implementing ePing Vietnamese version. The ePing Vietnamese versions also have a content focusing on some key sector and potential for the exports like agricultural product, seafood, footwear, and food, construction facilities, feeding animals, and others activities. All the alerts have been translated into Vietnamese. The Vietnamese business community and organization can easily access, saving time and resort to get closer than with international trade. For the capability building for the ePing up to now, according to the report from the Viettrade, there are 3 training courses for the ePing, which has been organized online, and the participant from the provincial trade promotion agency. And we also receive a lot of good feedbacks from the associations and enterprise. And especially in Vietnam, the access of information access will be implemented through the TBT and SPS. And you know that the two TBT and SPS are the two office in Vietnam also support with the accessing to the notification and also receives a lot of support, technical support from the ITC to use the ePing so that they can advise the enterprise and other associations in Vietnam. Ladies and gentlemen, over the last 2 decades, the world has witnessed a sharp increase in the numbers of technical barriers in the context of the continuously decreasing tariff under WTO and FTA commitment. In other words, while the average world tax rate has fallen with the commitment, the notification of the TBT and SPS technical barrier tend to increase strongly. I think the goals of the TBTs and SPS agreement and the TBTs and SPS provisions in the FTA is to promote trade, but also you know that it helps enterprise and association to build the capability to achieve this goal. On behalf of Viettrade and MOIT, I would like to say thanks to the ITC, WTO, and Mr. Pamela Cohen-Minton, Executive Director of ITC herself, and other organizations, United States Nation, for your support to the ePing, especially ePing Vietnamese version. We commit to the other organization to guide the Vietnamese association and enterprise to use this tool effectively. I would like to announce the opening ceremonies of launching the Iping Global Trade Alert System Vietnamese version. And I wish the conference and workshop success. Wish you all good health and success and happiness. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Mr. Đỗ Thắng Hải, the Deputy Ministers of MOITs. And now on, I would like to invite you to listen to the online welcome remarks from two organizations, WTOs and ITC. First of all, let's listen to the welcome speech of the Executive Directors of ITC, Mr. Pamela Cook Hamilton. Thank you very much. Please welcome. You are unmute, please.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Mr. Chairman. Honorable Mr. Do Thang Hai, Deputy Minister of Trade and Industry, Mr. Vu Ba Phu, Director General, Viet Nam Trade Promotion Agency, Mr. Ike Ho Lim, Director of Trade and Environment Division, WTO. Good to see you. Mr. Nguyen Huang Lim, Director General, Directorate for Standards, Metrology and Quality, Mr. Lê Tan Hoa, Deputy Director General, Director of SPS Office, Ministry of Agriculture and Rural Development, Mr. Dr. Dao Ngoc Ten, Vice President, Foreign Trade University, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. I'm pleased to be with you, at least virtually, from Geneva for the launch of the ePing in Vietnam. It is a pleasure to see a full room in Hanoi. Let me congratulate the country for the manner in which it has addressed the pandemic. It gives all of us hope that in a near future, in-person events will be possible again worldwide, and I look forward to that. I'm delighted to join you today to celebrate an unprecedented partnership. ITC bringing its expertise in the support of micro, small, and medium-sized companies. WTO championing rules-based trade. Viet Trade using its knowledge to promote Vietnam's trade competitiveness. Vietnam's SPS and TBT inquiry points building the bridge between the WTO and national stakeholders, sector associations representing business, and the Foreign Trade University, FTU, educating future leaders. All these forces combined created the Vietnamese version of ePing to help business in Vietnam stay informed and to anticipate and better understand regulatory changes in export destination markets. This is something to be championed. It is the first time that ePing will be made available in a language that is not an official WTO or UN language. It is the first time that a country attempts to systematically translate SPS and TBT notifications of high priority for its traders and will make these translations available through ePing as a global public good. It is the first time that such a translation not only implies translation from English, French, or Spanish to Vietnamese, but also a translation from legal to business language, boiling down the content of the notification to the essential pieces of information that an exporter needs, what the change concretely means for the business, and the impact which it is likely to have. It is the first time that a university, both lecturers and students, team up with WTO inquiry points and sector associations to provide such translations. It is the FTU students in Hanoi who are translating the most relevant notifications for Vietnamese exporters, starting with seafood and footwear. And it is them, in close coordination with business associations, who will be explaining the potential impact of those changes to local traders. As such, this effort is not only a service for businesses and inquiry points, it is also an investment in awareness, knowledge, skills, and networks of the students, the future generation of business leaders, policymakers, and trade specialists. The Vietnamese version of ePing will help bring the information contained in WTO notifications closer to those who most need it, the exporters and importers. It will help businesses react in a timely manner to regulatory changes in partner countries and will enable them to better identify concerns they may have to comply with. These in turn can be reported back through Iping, thereby facilitating the important work done by Vietnam's WTO inquiry points in the SPS office under the aegis of the Ministry of Agriculture and Rural Development and the TBT office at STAMIC, the Directorate for Standards, Metrology and Quality of Vietnam under the Ministry of Science and Technology. It is all of this combined which makes today's launch so special, and both businesses and governments in many countries are looking to Vietnam as an example to follow. Today's event is a result of a longer-term engagement of ITC, made possible through the financial support from the government of Denmark to support Vietnam in tackling the invisible barriers to trade, as we call the often hidden and unnecessary trade costs that non-tariff measures imply. In 2019, a large-scale survey of nearly 2,000 exporters and importers of both goods and services in Vietnam shed light on these invisible barriers. It provided evidence for the high trade cost, particularly for MSMEs, the backbone of all economies, related to lack of transparency, awareness, and understanding when it comes to, first of all, cost and time to export and import, rules and procedures to follow, and 3, changes in regulations, particularly those of export destinations. In response, government agencies, private sector associations, development partners, and other stakeholders developed a number of concrete actions, some of which, and the Vietnamese version of Iping is an example, are already being implemented. In this context, I would like to commend the determination of the government of Vietnam to streamline processes, improve quality management, and work with exporters to provide consistent and transparent information. ITC contributes to these efforts, and I would like to give you just 3 examples. Firstly, the EU-funded Systematic Mechanism for Safer Trade project contributes to improve compliance with SPS requirements for producers of dragon fruits, pomelo, and black pepper. Plant health and pesticide issues are often the cause of border rejections for products exported by Vietnam. The synergies between this initiative and Iping will help prevent trade disruptions. SPS and TBT notifications concerning fruits and vegetables will soon be included in the translation efforts. Secondly, ITC has created and is supporting a network of local certified trainers on market access and non-tariff measures. I'm proud to see that through their efforts and despite the slowdown caused by the pandemic, over the past 12 months, expertise on market access has been made available to almost 1,000 businesses throughout the country. It is also uplifting to note the high turnout of female participants in those workshops. 75% of the certified trainers are women. And we support the design of Vietnam's new national export strategy, which will take up the concerns that MSMEs voiced through the business survey, including but not limited to the documentation and simplification of export procedures. There's a lot at stake. We estimate that Vietnam can potentially increase its exports by up to $220 billion by 2025, even taking into account disruptions caused by COVID-19. The efforts must be collective to make this potential a reality. Let me finish by thanking, first of all, Viet Trade for your continued support for the inclusion of Vietnamese businesses in international markets. The SPS and TBT inquiry points for your
hỗ trợ trong việc đưa các doanh nghiệp Việt Nam ra thị trường
traders reach their full potential. The WTO for the long-term collaboration with ITC on ePing. The FTU alumni and staff for your enthusiasm in sharing your knowledge and skills with the local business community. The government of Denmark for the financial contribution to ITC's NTM program, under which this initiative in Vietnam is carried out. Our other development partners, notably EU and SECO, who support ITC's projects in Vietnam, and all Vietnamese businesses for your trust and dedication in responding to surveys and making your voices heard. Your cooperation is essential to make projects, such as the one we're launching today, come true. We're proud to be amongst such dedicated partners, and we're proud to contribute our expertise to the greater goal of bringing about the change needed to further strengthen Vietnam's trade competitiveness and help your MSMEs connect to global markets in a lasting and sustainable way. Thank you very much, and congratulations.
Thank you very much, Mrs. Pamela Cook-Hamilton, for your opening speech. And now we would like to welcome the opening speech from Mrs. WTO's I Lim.
Meetings of the WTO's Trade Policy Review Body. I understand that there has been a high level of interest and engagement in the first session that has already taken place on Tuesday, and there will also be a concluding session later today. These two activities represent distinct but complementary transparency mechanisms that facilitate information exchange and engagement on international trade matters. It is therefore my pleasure and an honor to contribute to this launch and to congratulate you on the ePing project in Vietnam. 5 years ago, the UN, ITC, and the WTO joined together to address demands for better access to key trade information on product requirements as covered by the SPS and TBT agreements. These SPS and TBT requirements have an enormous impact on international trade. This was one of the key findings of the ITC business survey carried out in Vietnam. Receiving an early alert on future changes in SPS and TBT product requirements is vital for business. It allows them to adjust, to raise potential problems related to their new requirements, and it is also essential for government officials as it allows them to review the new requirements, inform stakeholders in the country, and liaise with the government issuing provisions in SPS and TBT agreements mandate member governments to notify the WTO when planning or changing their product regulations. In recent years, more than 5,000 such notifications were received by the WTO annually, totaling more than 70,000 since 1995. And this is where ePing plays a vital role. Notifications need to reach all relevant stakeholders, and in particular, the private sector. It was in response to requests from both developed and developing countries to improve dissemination of these notifications that the ePing alert system was developed. The online platform is unique and disseminates notifications amongst its subscribers based on their interests in terms of products and markets. The SPS and TBT agreements also provide for follow-up actions in response to a notified regulation. For example, it is possible to submit an official comment for the notifying member's consideration or discuss the proposed regulation during SPS or TBT committee meetings. These actions improve regulatory cooperation and can preempt escalation of discussions between members. Here also, ePing can play a key role as it provides an online forum to discuss notifications at the domestic level, often the first necessary step for any follow-up action. ePing thus transforms formal transparency provisions into concrete benefits for stakeholders on the ground. And thanks to the dynamic tripartite partnership, ePing has become an effective tool. It is responsive to needs and requests, and the system is updated and adjusted frequently, adding new features such as a dedicated alert for COVID-19 related notifications. ePing aims to make the lives of small and medium-sized enterprises and other stakeholders a little easier. And today, a new milestone has been reached. The translation of the website interface and key notifications into Vietnamese is of great significance. This will improve access to these key pieces of information for Vietnamese stakeholders.
Với cập nhật những quy trình sản xuất.
The WTO is a proud contributor to this project and looks forward to hearing about the results, to learn from you, and to keep working on providing a better service. I would like to thank Viet Trade, the Foreign Trade University, the SPS TBT Inquiry Points, and of course our partner ITC, who have worked tirelessly on this collaborative project. And I thank all of you for taking part in this event. I wish you every success in your discussions and launch, and thank you very much.
Trân trọng cảm ơn ông Ai Ho Lim, giám.
Thank you very much, Mr. Ai Ho Lim. And hereafter is very important moments. We all witnessed a ribbon cutting ceremonies, and I would like to invite to the stage the following person to the stage for the ribbon cutting ceremony. I would like to invite Do Thang Hai, Deputy Minister of Industry and Trade, Mr. Vũ Bá Phú, Director of Trade Promotion Department, MOIT, Mr. Nguyễn Hoàng Linh, Deputy General Director, General Department of Standards and Quality, Mr. Lê Thanh Hòa, Deputy Directors of the Agricultural Product Processing and Ministries of Agriculture and Rural Development, Director of SPS Viet Nam. I would like to introduce Associate Professor Dr. Lê Thu Thuy, Chairman of the Foreign Trade Universities, come on to the stage to participate in the ribbon cutting ceremony for ePing Global Trade Notification System. And we also want to invite the following person to witness the ribbon cutting ceremony: Mr. Pamela Cook-Hamilton, Executive Director of ITC, Mr. Akik Ho Lim, Director of Trade Environment Division, to witness that ribbon cutting ceremony online. So please keep your scissors on your hands, and now we will count down from 3 to 1. Are you ready for this ceremonies? And now I would like to count 3, 2, 1, please. So I would like to congratulate for the official launching of the Global Trade Notification System. And this will be very practical and useful and effective tool for the enterprise and association. Congratulate. So please stay in the state to have like shaking the hands and have a photograph for this ceremony. Yeah, so we will have a photograph. And I hope that hope that you can give a big applause to have this wonderful ceremony today. Thank you very much. Thank you very much for wonderful ceremony. Ladies and gentlemen, so we just witnessed the official launch of the ePing and continue the suitable management collaboration between the MOITs and the One Trade and the ITC. Within this framework, the introduction of ePing to the university curriculum is one of the strategic activity to equip the specialized knowledge and create a habit of looking up and analyzing information, surfing for research and business activity. In fact, this will be a practical program being taught to university students so that they can readily get acquainted and have a commercial skill right after graduation. And Foreign Trade University is the first school that will put ePing in the training and pilot translation of all those in system. And following this, I would like you to witness the signing ceremonies of the NOU between ITC and FTU on inclusion of ePing in the curriculum, training, and pilot translation of the system. So let's start our swearing ceremony. Ladies and gentlemen, I would like to invite Associate Professor Dr. Dao Ngọc Tiến, Vice President of Foreign Trade University, to come to the stage to prepare for the swearing ceremony. For the ITC side, I would like to introduce Mr. Pamela Cook-Hamilton, Executive Director of ITC, who will be the signers of this MOU also. And now I would like to invite the following person to the stage to witness that signing ceremony. Mr. Đỗ Thắng Hải, please come to the stage. Mr. Vũ Bá Phú, Mr. Nguyễn Hoàng Linh. So please come to the stage to witness that signing ceremony. Mr. Nguyễn Hoàng Linh, Mr. Lê Thanh Hòa, please come to the stage to witness this ceremony. And I would like to introduce Miss Nguyễn Thị Minh Thúy, come to the stage. She will facilitate the signing ceremony. I would like to introduce Dr. Nguyễn Thị Thu Trang, VCCR. I would like to introduce Ms. Lê Thị Thu Thủy, Associate Professional President of the FTU. I would like to introduce Dr. Vũ Thị Hiền. I would like to introduce Dr. Lê Thị Thu Hải from FTU to come to the stage to witness this signing ceremony. So please come to the stage to witness this ceremony, signing ceremonies of MOU. Ladies and gentlemen, right here after the signing ceremony would like to start. First of all, I would like to introduce Mr. Đào Ngọc Tiến and Ms. Pamela Cook-Hamilton. Please sign. And now we also have Mr. Pamela Cook-Hamilton signing their MOU. Ladies and gentlemen, the MOU between the ITC and FTU has been officially signed. And I would like to invite you to stand up and show the MOU to all the people here to see and witness. Please show the MOU for all the people to see. Thank you very much and congratulate the collaboration between the ITCs and the FTU. And I wish you success and congratulations once again. Thank you very much, Mr. Pamela Cook-Hamilton and Mr. Đào Ngọc Tiến. And now is the shaking hands of all the person who witnessed that signing ceremony. And I would like to invite you to come here to the stage so that we can have a very beautiful photograph to celebrate our signing ceremony. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm sure that with this signing ceremony, it will bring a lot of effective values. This is not only for the students in the FTU, but also other students who are also familiar with the knowledge and practice after graduation. So please give a big applause to that event. Thank you very much. Mr. Đào Ngọc Tiến, thank you very much again, Ms. Pamela Cook-Hamilton, and thank you very much for witnessing this ceremony. Ladies and gentlemen, in the following, we would like to look at the screen and listen to the introductions of the ePing system from WTOs. And I would like to introduce Ms. Lotte Dugrit, the officers from the World Trade Organization, to have the presentation to introduce you about the ePing system.
So dear distinguished guests, dear ladies and gentlemen, also welcome from my side. I am Lotte Driege. I'm a project officer at the WTO, and I have been with ePing from its very beginning, first at the United Nations and now at the WTO. In the next 10 minutes, I will introduce ePing to you. Let me first share my screen. So I hope now the presentation is visible for you. So what is ePing about? ePing is about product requirements. For example, if you're selling rice on the EU market, that rice cannot exceed certain maximum levels of cadmium. Or if you're selling textiles on the US market, you must comply with the rules on care labeling. It is very important for exporters to stay informed on these product requirements and especially changes in these product requirements. Because of course you need to adjust to you might have to adjust your production process or your certification process to comply with these new requirements and to be able to keep exporting. It is also possible that you encounter certain problems with a new requirement, or something is not clear, you're not sure your product is covered by the new requirement, and then you need to follow up to make sure that you are aware of what you need to change and you can keep exporting to your destination countries. So you need to either adjust or you need to address potential trade issues to avoid trade disruption, and this to make sure that you can keep exporting to all your export markets. The WTO and ePing can help you to stay informed and adjust to the new requirements. Let's look at an example. Let's say that the US is planning on changing its product requirements concerning footwear. Then the question is, of course, how you in Vietnam will know about these changed product requirements. And if there is something not clear about this new product requirement, or you have issues with this new product requirement, the question is, how can you then take follow-up actions to make sure that you can comply with the new regulation timely and you can keep exporting? Well, whenever the US plans on changing its product requirements before it issues the new requirement, it has to let the WTO know that they are changing their product requirements. And they do this by sending a 2-page summary of the planned requirement to the WTO. And this is called an SPS or a TBT notification. So if the US plans on changing its product regulations concerning footwear, it has to send a notification to the WTO. What ePing does is taking that information from the WTO and bringing it to whoever is interested in Vietnam in this type of information. And this happens through an email alert. Once that information arrives in your inbox, there are several follow-up actions you can take. You might want to inform other stakeholders in the country about this upcoming regulation change in the US. Or maybe you want to start preparing your production process to make sure that you can comply with the new regulation. For example, it's possible that the US says that a certain material can no longer be used in sport shoes. Then you need to start searching for a replacement for that product. It can also serve as an inspiration for regulation in the country. Let's say that you can no longer use a certain material because it turns out to be bad for your health in the US. Well, I'm pretty sure it will also be bad for your health in Vietnam. So maybe also in Vietnam, you want to change your regulation and prohibit the use of that certain material. You can also request information. You can ask the inquiry point in the US to give more information about the upcoming regulatory change. You're also allowed to submit comments on the notification. And if you do that within a certain period of time, the US needs to take these suggestions into account when drafting the final text of the proposed measure. Finally, you can also raise an STC or a specific trade concern in the TBT or SPS committees. This is actually to discuss this new regulation at the international level at the WTO. And here also ePing can help because ePing provides several communication platforms. So you can discuss the new regulation at the national level and see if there are any follow-up actions necessary to make sure that you can keep exporting your footwear to the US. This is an example of a notification. This is one that was circulated by the European Union on 15th of March. And it concerns fruits, vegetables, rice, all kinds of products. And what is the new regulation? Well, the draft regulation lowers existing maximum levels for cadmium or establishes new maximum levels of cadmium in fruits and all the products that have been mentioned under this box 3. So this is really useful information. You get a 2-page summary of the proposed regulation, and you can quickly scan the regulation and see whether or not it is necessary for you to take any follow-up actions. And there is also some information on the date of entry into force, which is really important. So you know from when on you need to comply with this new regulation. There are, however, as already been mentioned in the speeches this afternoon, a lot of notifications arriving at the WTO. In recent years, there are more than 5,000 each year, and they can come from all over the world, as there are 164 members in the WTO, and all of those can submit a notification. You can imagine there are lots of notifications arriving, and they cover all kinds of products. It can be on textiles, processed foods, broadcast equipments or telephones, cars, chemicals, IP, internet protocols, fruits and vegetables, toys, cows, any product, you name it, there is most likely a notification about. I can imagine, however, especially if you are working in the private sector, that you are, for example, only interested in fruits and vegetables and processed foods, and you're only exporting to the to the EU. Of course, you don't want to receive 5,000 notifications a year on all kinds of products from all over the world. But there, ePing also helps, because what does ePing do, or what is ePing? Well, ePing is on the one hand an alert system that sends email alerts to its users, but it only includes those notifications that match your interest in terms of products and markets. So if you are only interested in notifications from the European Union on fruits, well, you can tell the system that you only want to receive those notifications, and then you will not receive any other notification, for example, notifications from China on food, or notifications from India on telephones or broadcasting equipment. No, you only receive what you see as interested for your business. Besides this alert, ePing also includes several communication platforms, and these support communication between the public and private sector. They allow for a dialogue among the stakeholders at the national level, and these dialogues are facilitated by the inquiry points. These inquiry points are really key in these mechanisms, as they monitor the fora and actually manage ePing at the national level. So ePing helps you, on the one hand, to stay informed about those product requirements that you need to be aware of, and on the other hand, it helps you to follow up if you think you need to discuss a certain notification to take further follow-up actions. ePing has been a tripartite collaboration. So ePing is a collaboration between the ITC, UN, the United Nations Departments for Economic and Social Affairs, or UNDESA, and the WTO. And it's each of these organizations bringing their strengths to the table that have turned ePing into a success. ITC, of course, for their huge expertise in developing online tools, but also in identifying and addressing the needs in terms for better trade for SMEs and businesses in general. UNDESA, because they work together a lot with least developed countries and set up capacity building programs on trade in these countries. And the WTO, because of course they are the managers of the notifications, and they are also working together often with the inquiry points, SPS and TBT inquiry points in the members. So it's thanks to the successful collaboration between these three organizations that we have been able to make ePing to let ePing be such an effective tool. Before we go and take a look at the Vietnamese version of ePing, I will just give some information on who is using ePing. Well, we have, as of today, more than 13,000 users, and 350 of them are from Vietnam. If we look at who is using ePing, we see that about half of the users is from the public sector, and a little bit less than half are from the private sector. If we look at the users from Vietnam, we see it's quite similar. There is 50% public sector users, and there is 1/3 coming from the private sector. And I'm sure after this event and the many trainings and activities that we've carried out and will carry out in future, that this number will rise substantially. So I would like to thank you all very much for being here with us today. And if you have any questions or comments you would like to raise, you can always contact us at the email address that is mentioned there, which is eping@wto.org. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Ms. Lothers. And to know more about the ePings, I would like to introduce the representative from the SPS and TBT Viet Nam. I would like to introduce Mr. Lê Thanh Hoa, Deputy Director of the Department of Agro Product Processing and Director of SPS Viet Nam office to come to the stage to have presentation to have more introduction about it. So do I speak Vietnamese or English? Ladies and gentlemen, on behalf of SPS Office Vietnam, Agriculture and Rural Development, I would like to say thanks to the Deputy Ministers and the Executive Director from the ITC. Chị nghe bé lắm ấy, cho to lên thôi chị. I know that the content related to the TBTs or the SPS is more and more important in the international trade, especially SPS is a very sensitive sectors when Vietnam joined in the 16 free trade agreements. And Vietnam also the WTO members. We also respond on the obligations of notifying the regulations, decrees, and directions and guidelines related to the SPS, food safety controls in the import and export of agricultural products between Vietnam and other international partnership. You know that over the 10 years that Vietnam as a member of WTO, we have completed and fulfilled that obligations and responsibilities. Over the last 2 days, we have been preparing and reviewing all the trade policies of Vietnam over 14 years. And the first phase is 5 years later and 7 years. And you know that the second phase of reviewing trade policy is a little bit delayed due to the COVID, and we have to do it online rather than face-to-face reviewing at the WTO's office. And I think that with the support of the ePing enterprise, small and medium enterprise themselves, we have an opportunity to access to this regulation. I see a very clear pictures like FTIs and foreign related enterprise have are very good at complying with the FTI's requirements when we export the technical product to the international markets. However, the small and medium enterprise have some difficulties because the legal team there is not strong, so that they also have some limitations in terms of the language. So I think that with the support of the ePings, it will support a lot for the small and medium enterprise, especially with the support from the ITC for inclusions of the ePings into the trainings and curriculums in the university. I think that for the trainings of SPS and TBTs, because I am also the negotiators of the SPS and TBT agreement. So I have a lot of recommendations many times. However, you know that SPS and TBT curriculum trainings is still limited and we are not good at. I made a lot of proposals and recommendations like MUTRAP 1 and MUTRAP 2 projects. And in the coming time, we also have another project from the EU for Vietnam, like Array Plus. And I also again recommend this one. We may work together to design a curriculum to include the TBTs and SPS trainings in the university, because this will become the core things in the futures. Because you know that the tariff maybe in the future will down to zero. So, you know, especially some tariff related to the agriculture products. So in the coming time, the tariff will soon down to the zero. So that's why we have to quickly update and equip the knowledge about the TBT and SPS. Once again, I would like to say thanks to the ITC's WTO support and for support in the information to support the small and medium enterprise in Vietnam to access to international market in the coming time. So once again, on behalf of the SPS, Ministries of Agriculture and Rural Development, wish you happiness and success. Thank you very much. Later on, I would like to invite Ms. Thơ Nữ Thục Uyên, Deputy Director of the Vietnam TBT Office, to the stage to have a speech. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, for joining the workshop today. First of all, on this occasion, I would like to say thanks to WTO, ITC, and Viettrade to facilitate and give us the opportunity to have presentation today. And we also have a sharings about our experience during working with the enterprise, as well as the sharing from the enterprise for this Iping. Upon the request from the organization team, I also prepared a very short 5 to 7 minutes presentation to introduce about the TBT Vietnam. And I also have a sharings about the activities that TBT have supported enterprise to discriminate about the Iping over the past times. My presentation will include the two parts. The first part is introductions about the TBT Vietnam, and the second part is the activity to discriminate the Iping in Vietnam. And it also includes the contents about the trade barriers. And Mr. Hoa also talked about the SPS Vietnam, and also have a brief talking about SPS. You know that ePing is a alert system for both TBTs and SPS. For the TBT's office, I would like to have very brief introductions about the TBT's office. You know that in 2007, we also have a remark step of the international integration. And there has one very important event to remark the international integration of Vietnam. Vietnam became official members of WTO on the 11th January 2017. 27, sorry. And you know that to become the official member of WTO, that we need to have a lot of preparation in terms of legal framework and facility and infrastructure to meet the requirement of the WTO commitment. And one of the commitment is a TBT agreements or SPS agreement. For TBT, trade barrier, technical barrier, you know that TBTs, for the TBT, it requires the country to establish a office, I mean that TBT office. So in 2003, the ministries of the science and technology have decided to establish the TBT's office in Vietnam. I can use it one to control. All right. In 2005, and we recognize the importance of this activity. The Prime Minister have issued the decision 114 to establish and issue the regulation on the organization and activities of the TBT Information Inquiry Office, because you know that in 2003 we just only established a office, but in 2005 the Prime Minister have issued a decision to establish a network of information inquiry. This network included different TBT points. I mean that different the TBT inquiry in the province, and 10 ministries and departments and connected to the logo to be the TBT Viet Nam to implement the different TBT agreements by the WTO. In 2017, 4 years ago, 24 November 2017, to meet and satisfy all the TBT agreements. As you know that we have CPTPP and EVFTA, right? So in 2017, the Prime Minister have issued the decision 46 to replace the decision 114 to manage and provide the regulations and operations of the TBT network. For the details, you can access to the website of the this office for more information. We have been assigned to do a lot of and different responsibility, but focusing on two key things. First of all, we have to implement the member obligations regarding to the TBT. And the second one is that we have to support the enterprise to update timely the information about the TBT to support for the export activities of the enterprise. This is some numbers. You listen to the expert from the ITC about the notifications of the TBTs and SPS. Though those notifications will be the notifications and the changes may issue. So the WTO members have to use the template of the WTO to send to the WTO member country within 60 days. According to our statistics, you can see in the chart here, the volumes of the notification increased significantly over the years. In 2000 and 2005, it's just only 1,000 notification, but though notification has been increased years by years, it means that WTO member countries also has a lot of changes every year. And this is some regulations that you can see what types of changes for the product requirements. For example, like EU Commission will issue like notifications about the changes, decree 1907 for the organic product. So this is some draft that EU will issue and send to WTO country members to have a comments and feedback. So if your country plan to establish that produce organic products and export to the EU. So you can basing on that change to see that what types of the activity you have to do, so what changes that you have to make. So if you fail to update those informations, what is the consequence? You can update the information on the export alert from EU. You also can update information. For example, like Central Biostreet exported to Germany has been restored in the market from 16 February 2021 because this sandal contain the chromium 6 over and exceeding the maximum levels of the Europe markets, because you know that some of the information also have updated about the REACH regulation already from EU, right? You know that with increasing notifications, the update of information is very important for the enterprise. So how effectively the ePings and notification has been discriminated to the, I would like to note some information in the implementation and discriminations of the Viet Nam. In 2016, that November 2016, Iping has been officially launched and recommend and introduced to the enterprise.
này và cũng như là cái tầm quan hai mươi quốc gia mà rằng là sẽ có một cái cơ hội rất là lớn để có thể theo và
and agendas to receive the notification for ePing Vietnamese version. As you listen already, I don't want to repeat again, but I want to emphasize that the second point in this slide. In the past WTOs and ITC, we have only 3 official languages: English, French, and Spanish. However, now we have Vietnamese version with the support from ITC. We have the Vietnamese ePing version. So we're very proud of this one. And with their support from ITC and WTOs, Vietnamese enterprise, especially small and medium enterprise, will have a more opportunity to access to the TBT's notification. You can see here we have a VN. This means that you can select the language Vietnamese that if you wish to use this website in Vietnamese version. Here, you can use the link that organization team introduced to you, but you also come to the information portals of the TBT. We also have a logos of the ePing, and if you access to the websites, you also can access to the ePings in Vietnamese version by clicks on the logos of the ePings through this website. To access to the TBT, you can use the address tbt.gov.vm, or you can scan the QR code to access to the websites of the TBTs of Viet Nam to have information about the TBTs and access to the ePings in Vietnamese version created by the WTOs and ITC. So that is the end of my presentation. Thank you very much for your listening. Thank you very much, Ms. Thôn Nữ Thuộc Quyên, Deputy Director of Vietnam TBT Office. After we have heard a lot of information from WTO, TBT Office, and SPS, here is a video clip that the organizer have prepared to help us better understanding the benefits of the ePing system for business as well as the system perspective from the related agency. So please watch.
Service that provides timely and tailored information on these product requirements to its subscribers. It is the result of a fruitful collaboration between the ITC, the UN, and the WTO. The translation of the ePing portal into Vietnamese marks a new milestone in this collaboration.
IT Viet Nam là đơn vị sản xuất, chế biến, kinh doanh các sản phẩm về trà phục vụ thị trường nội tiêu và thị trường xuất khẩu. Xuất khẩu chúng tôi đang xuất khẩu đến các thị trường Trung Đông, Trung Quốc, Đài Loan, Nhật Bản và một số quốc gia thuộc khối EU.
Công ty của chúng tôi hoạt động trong lĩnh vực xuất nhập khẩu hoa quả. Các thị trường mà chúng tôi đang hoạt động đó chính là Nhật Bản, Hàn Quốc, Đài Loan, Mỹ, Úc, Canada và New Zealand.
Vấn đề gặp phải trong khi xuất khẩu đó là dư lượng thuốc bảo vệ thực vật và các cái chất gây hại trong sản phẩm, và chúng tôi không được cung cấp các cái thông tin này một cách chính xác và kịp thời.
Khi xuất nhập khẩu hàng hóa thì chúng tôi phải hiểu được những cái yêu cầu của sản phẩm và dịch vụ ở thị trường đích. Ngoài ra thì những cái khó khăn mà chúng tôi phải gặp phải đó chính là phải hiểu được những cái hàng rào về kỹ thuật, những cái hiệp định chính sách mà Việt Nam đã ký với các nước.
trợ phía Iping thì các thông tin liên quan đến sự thay đổi
khó khăn nhất định trong cái việc đáp ứng yêu cầu kỹ thuật. Tuy nhiên, trước khi vượt qua những rào cản kỹ thuật thì doanh nghiệp sẽ phải vượt qua những rào cản vô hình khác là về mặt ngôn ngữ của các biện pháp TBT. Chính vì vậy mà việc ITC xây dựng cái hệ thống ePing bằng tiếng Việt giúp cho doanh nghiệp rất nhiều trong việc đáp ứng tận dụng quyền lợi của doanh nghiệp đối với nghĩa vụ minh bạch hóa và đồng thời giúp cho doanh nghiệp tiếp cận với cả quy định kỹ thuật của thị trường xuất khẩu một cách nhanh hơn.
Đúng về khía cạnh xúc tiến thương mại thì chúng tôi đánh giá cao hệ thống cảnh báo thương mại ở hai khía cạnh. Thứ nhất là giúp cho doanh nghiệp chúng ta nâng cao cái năng lực về tìm kiếm thông tin cũng như là phân tích thông tin để phục vụ quá trình sản xuất kinh doanh xuất khẩu. Thứ hai là hỗ trợ doanh nghiệp của chúng ta tiết kiệm được chi phí khi mà chúng ta nắm được các thông tin thì chúng ta sẽ có một cái giải pháp chi phí một cách thực sự là hiệu quả.
Những cảnh báo từ Iping giúp tôi ở phần nghiên cứu thị trường làm thế nào để xuất khẩu được lại hoa quả đúng với nhu cầu của thị trường bên đó.
Trường đại học Viet là đối tác chuyên môn của dự án kết hợp những vấn đề lý thuyết ở trong trường đại học với lại thực tiễn trong hoạt động của doanh nghiệp. Thứ nhất là chúng tôi sẽ đưa những nội dung này vào trong chương trình đào tạo để cung cấp cho sinh viên những cách tiếp cận những phương pháp hiện đại. Thứ hai là chúng tôi sẽ cung cấp cho doanh nghiệp những bản dịch, những phân tích, những bình luận về những cảnh báo về những khó khăn của doanh nghiệp gặp phải trong thực hiện.
Vâng thưa quý vị, và chắc chắn rằng qua video vừa rồi thì chúng ta đã phần nào hiểu hơn về ePing, và vì là một hệ thống cảnh báo nên thông tin sẽ được cập nhật liên tục nhằm giúp các đơn vị là doanh nghiệp có thể cập nhật được thông tin mới nhất, ứng dụng vào công việc và đạt được hiệu quả cao nhất. Tuy nhiên thì để thực hiện được công việc này, tổ chức cần nguồn nhân lực và nhân sự thật sự chất lượng. Và hiện nay thì Trường Đại học Ngoại thương đó là đối tác của chương trình. Và thời gian vừa rồi thì ITC cùng với Đại học Ngoại thương cũng đã tiến hành dự án dịch thuật các cảnh báo từ ePing cho Việt Nam. Và chúng ta hãy cùng lắng nghe đôi nét về chương trình này. Xin được trân trọng kính mời lên sân khấu tiến sĩ Nguyễn Thu Hằng, giảng viên Đại học Ngoại thương. Trân trọng kính mời bà.
Xin chào tất cả các quý vị. Sau đây thì
Ladies and gentlemen, on behalf of the translation pilot projects in association with the ITC, I would like to have the presentations on that project that we have implemented over the past time. I just only have 10 minutes, so I just only focus on 4 key things. First of all, is the overall introductions about the project. The second one is the key activities of the projects. The third one, it will be the surveys findings of the project from the enterprise. And the last one, I will talk about some recommendation from the FTU. Ladies and gentlemen, when FTU associates with the ITC to implement this project, we aim at enhancing the information accesses of enterprise. When enterprise export the products and goods to the international market, we hope to promote and enhance the knowledge and also include the content of the ePings and notifications and TBT and SPS in the training curriculum. We hope that our students, when they are in the university, they are also equipped with the knowledge, I mean the practical knowledge, so that it will help them into research and practical works in the future. This is overall introductions about project. You know that we received a lot of support from the ITC or WTOs or Viettrade or TBT or SPS office in providing the alerts and notification to enterprise. We also have this interface and the websites in Vietnamese. However, the core content is still in English. That is the reason why enterprise still have some difficulty to catch up with and grasp the information or comply with the product requirements or the regulations of the TBT and SPS. That is the reason why we come up with the ideas of translating the notification contents in Vietnamese. Before implementing this project in the big scope, well, I mean that before rolling out, we would like to pilot to translate the notifications and regulations of some key sector. We had only 3 weeks in April to do this translation. And thanks for the support from the FTU students. They are second and third year students. They have deep trainings and intensive trainings on the international trades with the very advanced English skills. And we also thanks to the participation and support from the lecturers of the FTUs. And you know that the beneficiaries of this project is the enterprise which do the export to the international markets. And we also have a lot of enterprise which are interested in this project. However, you know that the pilot time it is only 3 weeks, which is very short. So in this period, we have very close working with the enterprise. So we just only select the 27 enterprise for the seafood, fruit, and agricultural products. I mean, footwear. And you might question why we just only select the 3 sectors. We have 3 reasons. First of all, seafood, fruit and vegetables, and footwear are the top products of the high export volume. And according to Iping, we recognize that those 3 sectors have very high percentage of the notification. According to the studies of the ITC recently, the impacts of the non-tariff barriers have very big impact to the 3 sectors. And those are 3 reasons why we select those 3 sectors for translation. I mean that in 3 sectors like footwear, seafood, and fruits and vegetables, we implement some activities to translate. First of all, we have to select the notifications and then translate. After that, we will edit that translation because you know that the lecturers will have to edit, and then we also the sixth advice from the subject matter experts to have advice and comments on that translation, and we can ensure the quality. I mean that ensure the qualities of the translations, and we send the translation to the enterprise through the email they register or the Zalo group that we discuss with enterprise. And we also guide directly the enterprise to use the national forum of ePing so that the enterprise can directly receive the translation through ePings. And through the national forum, the enterprise can have like dialogues and discuss with the same sector enterprise and may have a deep and further discussions and guidelines on the thing that you feel that unclear or is difficult to apply. We also have a surveys and seek input from the enterprise to evaluate the qualities of the translations and also the take the lesson learned that we can apply in the future. You can see here some the the image of the project activities, and this is a demo of the translation. You know that there are some very short translation, just only 1 or 2 page. However, there are also very long, like 10 or more than 10 page of the translation. So we just only select the one that have a big impact and direct impact to the enterprise. And there are some image on how that we guide and support enterprise. Thank you very much for the enterprise from the fruit and vegetable enterprise and footwear enterprise to participate in this project with us. Sometimes we need to do the illusions or guidance at the night time, but you know that we work very well with the enterprise and we're happy for that collaborations. And this is some achievements. I mean that some result after surveying the enterprise. First of all, the enterprise evaluations on the necessaries of the Vietnamese versions of the notification. So the total scores of the 5, that's very, very necessary. So the enterprise feedbacks is 4.5 out of 5. So it means that it's very necessary for enterprise. And more than 96.3% of enterprise said that these activities, I mean that translation activity is very necessary for the enterprise. When you look at the slide, this is the average survey score for the 3 sectors that we are working on the translation. So you know that the highest sector is fruit and vegetable, and follows by the seafood, and the last one is the footwear. So it means that for the fruit and vegetable sectors are in highly demanding for the translations of the notification. The footwear is the lowest one, however, is still very necessary for the enterprise to have a Vietnamese versions of the notification content. Last of all, the feedbacks from the enterprise. When I asked the enterprise, did you receive any similar service of translation like this or not? And 100% of enterprise in this pilot project said that they haven't received any similar service from other organization. You know, more than 96% of enterprise said that this project should be the long-term and sustainable project and to support the enterprise. When I asked the enterprise after receiving the translation, how do you work with that and proceed with that notification and information? They said that they will send to the relevant stakeholders and the department to process and apply the information. And 41% of the enterprise respond that they just only use the notification for reference. So it means that there are certain amounts or certain numbers of the notification that we translate is not still working very well and support for enterprise because it's just only use it for the reference. When we have a survey on the qualities of the translation, so the score we receive is a 4.1 out of 5 in the email score range of 5 that we reach 4.5, and the enterprise said that it's very easy to understand the translation. And when we asked the enterprise that do you want to have a long-term notifications and how do you want to receive that notifications of the translation, they say that they want to receive the direct notification is mean through the email or Zalo, and less enterprise want to receive the notification through the other information portals, for example, National Forum. So you know that maybe the enterprise are not familiar with using the national forums. That is the reason why they said that they want to receive directly the notification through the email and Zalo. But when they are familiar with the national forum, they will receive it through that one. And even they can have like more discuss about that notification. And you know that this is some number that I want to report support to you. 96% of enterprise that say that the translations of the regulations is a very necessary. 100% of enterprise say that the usings of the national forum is for them to discuss and have like sharings and talk about their concern. When we work with enterprise and we recognize that enterprise has a lot of positive feedbacks, and on behalf of the project team from FTU, we said that we are willing to engage and implement these projects in the long term. Even when we asked our students, a lot of students are willing and volunteer to engage in this project for the long term to accompany and support enterprise. However, we also recognize that for the success and effectiveness of this project, we also need to have a collaboration and willingness from the different relevant stakeholders, especially from WTO and ITC, to have a support from the human research. And we also want to receive the support from the state agency like Viettrade and other agencies of the MOITs, Ministries of Agriculture and Development, TBT and SPS office to have a further guidelines regarding the regulations and other things. And I hope that other business association and community have a communication and discriminations about the activities for the enterprise to engage in this activity. You know that enterprise are the beneficiary of this project. However, I hope that the project are more proactive to participate in and also exploit the information we have translated and using the national forum effectively. And I hope we also want you to have the sharings in how to process the informations and notifications or regulation you receive to give more support to you. So this is my brief presentation regarding to the pilot translations of the notification in the ePing in April. We hope that you can give a lot of feedback and comments so that we can implement this project in the long term and effectively to achieve the goals that support the enterprise in the long term. And this is the end of my presentation. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Dr. Nguyễn Thu Hằng, lecturers of the FTU. And with the presentation from the representative of the FTU, we also come to the second part of the workshops and come to the panel discussion. I would like to introduce Mr. Nguyễn Thị Minh Thúy, Directors of the Information and Technology Application, Viettrade and MOIT, and she also will be the facilitator of panel discussion. And I would like to introduce Mr. Tôn Nữ Thục Uyên, Deputy Director of the TBT office. I would like to introduce Mr. Lê Thanh Hòa, Deputy Director General, Ministries of Agriculture and Rural Development, Director of SPS Office of Viet Nam, Associate Professor Dr. Đào Ngọc Tiến, Vice President of the FTO. I would like to introduce Mr. Dr. Drex, at WTO office, and Mr. Ursula Hermeling from ITC. So please come to the stage for the panel discussion. I would like to introduce Ms. Minh Thúy to facilitate the panel discussion today. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. We have a panel discussions. The last part of the launching workshop today, we received quite a lot of questions through the text of the Zoom, and we series a lot of questions like offline already. As you know, that we have a lot of questions. So we usually focus on the question that we receive first come first serve. And if we still have a time, so we still welcome your questions. And if we don't have a time, so we can miss that. We receive your questions and then we send to the relevance that expertise and stakeholders so that we can have a proper response to you. And now I would like to start. And I received a lot of questions. So the first question for WTO, how can we contact with the ITC? Sorry, how to contact with the WTO for any difficulties and challenges or any problem related to the ePing? How can we contact with the representative from WTO? And how can we connect with them, whether we use Vietnamese or English to contact with them? So I would like to leave these questions to Mr. Lotters.
So thank you very much for the question. How can you contact us? So I think at the end of my presentation, there was an email address included. I can also put it in the chat of this Zoom session. I don't know if that will be visible then for all that are participating in this event, but I'm sure that we will be able to arrange this to make sure that you all have it. And that's just eping@wto.org. If you send any query or question you have to that email address, then you will get an answer. There is also on the ePing website an online form that you can fill out. There is a contact us button on the website. If you click there, you can also write the question you have. It will basically go to the same email inbox which I manage, and I will make sure that you get the right answers. For what concerns the questions in Vietnamese, unfortunately, I do not speak Vietnamese. I know we have a colleague in ITC. Maybe Ursula can pick up on that. We have a colleague in ITC that is from Vietnam, actually from an old student from the Foreign Trade University. So maybe we can liaise with him if we get questions from Vietnamese users in Vietnamese. So thank you.
Thank you very much for your response. And the second question for Mr. Thuc Nguyen from the TBT. Recently, we just heard that we have activity like ITC business survey confirm that SPS activity measures in foreign markets are the most burden regulation experienced by Vietnamese exporter. So how do you estimate that getting updated information on changes in the regulation can help like in reducing the trade costs for our fellow Vietnamese business when they exporting? Thank you very much for your questions. It's very clear that it's very supportive for enterprise. You know that in the past, if the enterprise wants access to the TBT and SPS information, they can access through the database of WTOs. However, for the SME enterprise to access the information, it's not easy. However, upon having ePing, it is much more easier for enterprise because all the notification about the TBT and SPS were directly sent to the enterprise and customized upon the requirements and interests of the enterprise. For example, they are prioritize exporting to the Europe market. That's up into the registration. They can select the markets they are interested in or the areas that they're interested in, like a TBT or SPS, so that they can access the information on time and very quickly. So this is a very useful and effective tool for enterprise. If enterprise want to know more about the SPS or TBT measure, whether it is suitable for their products or not. Thank you very much for your question, for your response. I think there's a very interesting question from the one organization. This is for the ITC. I would like to ask Ms. Ursula, according to the ITC, we have a plan to build the capability for the PE enterprise in Vietnam, where or not, especially that capability will be related to the ePing for small and medium enterprise. So therefore, could you share that where do we have any plans to build the capability for enterprise in Vietnam to create the habits for the enterprise in Vietnam? That's how they can access to the information by themselves and also study by themselves to apply in their business.
Thank you.
Yes, so please.
Thank you very much for the question, and thanks again to all our partners in Vietnam for this wonderful event today. In terms of capacity building, yes, indeed. My colleagues have mentioned it earlier also in the opening speech. There is already ongoing some capacity building that is led by the SPS and TBT inquiry points to train enterprises on how to use ePing, how to make use of the information therein, how to interpret it as well. So this is an offer that was already there before, but now we have intensified. There are capacity building offers also from ITC and the WTO that are being offered, but I would also want to refer to our network of experts and trainers on market access and NTMs that also have capacity now to share knowledge and show to enterprises how to use ePing and how to make the best benefit out of it. Going forward, there's a number of initiatives that also are supported by ITC that will have a strong emphasis on capacity building. So our ED mentioned earlier in her speech the systemic mechanism for safer trade project that looks into SPS in particular. So there are elements of capacity building in there as well, and these projects will make use of ePing information as well. And so will obviously be then the implementation of the national export strategy. Thank you.
So this is a question. Thank you very much for your response. And this question for Dr. Đào Ngọc Tuyến. We just heard about the project from the FTU regarding to the translations and include this into the curriculum training for the FTU students. So could you share with us about the roadmap of including this one into the trainings for the student? Yes, actually, ITC associate with the FTU as is not official, but we have a very easily long cooperation associations like a lot of things like trade map and also the tool to access and evaluate assess and evaluate the potential export. So today, like when WTOs and ITCs cooperate with trade to launch that ePing and develop the ePing Vietnamese version. So you know that we always put the most updated one into the training and curriculum trainings for the student. And up to now, we have framed and make a detailed plan which content to conclude it in the curriculum training. And the last step is that we need to get the approval from the science and education councils of the university to officially put it in the place to support and train the students of the FTU. Thank you very much. And there are some questions. It's a very interesting question. With the notification for the member country through email, whether we have to pay the fee to receive those notifications or not. Can we receive the notification through Zalo or Viber instead of like email frequently? So I would like to leave this question to representative from the WTO to respond to this question, Mr. Lossers.
So thank you very much for the question. So Of course, the system is for free. You can register if you have internet. That's what you need. You just go to the website and you register, and you receive the notifications in your emails, in your email inbox. And so no charges are linked to using ePing. For what concerning using it through Zello or Viber, for now, ePing is only available through the website. However, we are constantly working on ePing. It's changing. Well, I mean, it keeps being accessible and user friendly, but we keep updating it, making it more useful, making it more user friendly, adding features that are being requested, and so on. So if you have any suggestions for us to improve, they are most welcome. And also in future, there might be a moment when we create an application that you can put on your phone to follow the notifications and so on. So there will be changes, and they won't. It's how would I say it? Like we're really looking into this right now. So there might be future changes coming up later this year or next year. So yeah, just keep your eyes open and see what happens. There might be available in the medium term. So thank you for the great question.
Other question from the service company, that's water sport company. We would like to produce the products for the water sport to export. But now ePing just only have a translations of the 3 key sectors. So whether in the coming time, do we have any plan to extend the translation for different sectors or not? And what is plan and timeline? Oh yes, this is very practical question from enterprise. And you know that based on the presentation of Dr. Hang, the reason why we just only select that 3 key sector as a prioritizations, you know that in the presentations of our college, we have a huge amount of the notification, and we cannot translate everything at one time. So we just only focus on translating the thing that can support the big population. So in the coming time, based on the balancing the human resource and other things, FTU in association with the WTO, ITCs, and the Viet Trade to work together to extend the translation for different sectors and industries. And I think that it is ambitious that we can do everything. However, we should look at the thing that is more feasible, that can meet the demands of the big populations of the enterprise. For that's for the big and medium enterprise, even the big enterprise and large enterprise, they have the capability to and language capability to access to the English. And for the question from the enterprise, I would like to ask on that. If we just only have some enterprise or just only interested in some specific for small populations of the enterprise, that we can collect directly with the FTU so that we can have some discussions to support enterprise for the small populations of the enterprise, so that we can zoom in the scopes of the notification that we can support for enterprise. Because you know that we are unable to translate everything related to that water support equipment, right? So we just only cares about the populations of the enterprise, and they're interested in the key sector with the big impacts, and we need to have the prioritization. And if you want to have a more interest, so you can connect directly with her so that we can have a direct support to you. Thank you very much for a very focused response. Do you have any question here in our room? Do you have any questions? Yes, do you have any more questions? So, okay, settle another question here. That Vietnamese enterprise, whether Vietnamese enterprise have a capability to contact with the other members in the national forums or not. If in the system, if possible, how is that? Or do we have features or the scheme that help our enterprise to contact with the other members through the ePing? Are you clear about the question? This is a question from one enterprise. You know that for the information inquiries or ePings, whatever, do we have any way to contact with the other WTO member countries? Or if yes, how can we contact with them? So this question we may leave to the ITCs or here. ITC, can you respond to these questions?
Ursula, I'm happy to take this as well if you, okay. Thank you. Thank you very much for this great question. So how can you reach other members, WTO members is the question, if I got it correctly. Well, there are several ways. Of course, I would suggest whenever you have a question on a notification, something is not clear, you have questions on whether your product is covered by this notification or not, I would suggest you reach out to the SPS or TBT inquiry point in your country. So the Vietnamese SPS and TBT inquiry point as a first step. You can do that through the national forum on ePing, because if you post something there, they will get an email and they can follow up on your question, but you can also reach out to them directly. So that I would suggest as a first step. But what you can also do is reach out to the inquiry points of the WTO members to ask a question. So there is on ePing a list of all inquiry points, and they all have an email address listed there. So it's fairly easy. You can go to ePing, search the country you have a question on which notification you have a question about, and you can contact them.
Chúng ta cũng có thể kết nối với họ và
answer your questions. So this is one option to reach out. On ePing, there is also an international forum where information can be shared among members. However, you need special admin rights on ePing to post something there. So that is for inquiry points mostly. Everybody can read the information that is posted there. So it is transparent in the sense that you can see what is being shared. For example, it's possible that a translation of a notified text is shared there, or there is a question being posed, but the active engagers there are the people with admin rights, and that is SPS and TBT inquiry points for the biggest part. There is, maybe just to mention, for those that have admin rights, there is also a way to communicate in the bilateral or a more close environment via the admin chat. Just wanted to mention this. If there are questions on this, please let me know, but this last feature is only for admin users on ePing. So I hope this answered a little bit the question. Thank you.